Hi there, my name's Jessica Jordan. I run Field Place Pottery in Worthing, and I'm just going to do you a little tiny workshop to sort of help you get through what's going on at the moment. So my workshop's in Worthing, and I've been running it there for about 3 years, and unfortunately last week we had to close down, but I'm still going. I'm still sort of working from home, doing a bit of homeschooling with my kids, which is quite a bit of fun. But hats off to all you teachers out there who deal with the kids on a day-to-day basis. I don't think I could do it. So I'm going to give you just a little demonstration on how to make a little poppy seed head. Now I use these for the garden, but you can also use them to go into your pot plants at home as well. So it's just a nice little workshop. So all we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of clay. So the clay that I'm using today is called Earthstone Smooth Texture. I buy mine from Clayman, who is in Pagham, but you can also buy it from Valentine's, who actually distribute it and make the clay as well. So great clay. So it's a really good all-round clay. So I use this pretty much for sculpting, throwing. I also use it for my pots that I make, as well as garden sculptures, which is brilliant for raku ware as well. So it's a really good all-rounder, so I highly recommend this clay. So it's Earthstone Smooth Texture. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to roll my clay into a ball. You don't really need any tools. I do have tools with me just in case. So I've got a pottery knife, and I've got a serrated kidney and a paintbrush basically for the water, and that's all you really need, to be quite honest, and some clay as well. So if you don't have any clay, you could also do this with Play-Doh or plasticine. That'd be absolutely fine as well. So here's my ball of clay, and I'm going to just place it to the middle of my hand, and I'm going to use my hand to actually sort of roll out. So I'm just rolling out at the moment. So I want to, all I want to do really is to roll into a nice little ball. So to do that, I'm using the round part of the palm of my hand to take the clay around. So I'm moving it around, and if I want to move the clay, I'm going to pick up with my hand and move. You don't have to do that. If you can't do that, you just take your clay and move it. Roll, take it and move. And that's absolutely fine as well. So we're just going to roll, and this just helps you get a nice round shape. So if you find that your clay ends up being sort of quite a flat pancake, which can happen, that's because you're not moving the clay enough around the palm of your hand. So you're not picking it up and moving it, because if you're only just going in one sort of motion on one side, it then ends up being more of a flat round and not a nice round ball. So there's one. Do exactly the same to the other. So they're roughly equal sized pieces of clay as well. So once I've got my two round pieces of clay like so, I'm going to make a pinch pot. So to make a pinch pot, I'm going to find the middle, and I'm just going to push my finger in. So I'm going to start with my finger to begin with. So use the cup of your hand again and just push that finger in. You don't want to go too far, so you're looking for halfway basically, and then I'm going to use my finger and my thumb on the outside and just give it a small pinch. So I'm just pinching on the outside and moving it around as I'm pinching and working the clay. So now I've made the hole big enough, I'm actually going to take my thumb on the inside. Now I'm going to use my fingers, so I'm doing this sort of motion as I'm going around. So as I'm going around, just pinching the clay out and taking some of that weight out as well. So I'm equaling out the walls of the actual pinch pot. Okay, and there we go. And I'm going to do exactly the same again. So find the middle, pinch with my thumb to begin with, just to make the hole a bit bigger, and then in with my thumb. I'm going to pinch all the way around. I'm just going to equal out the tops of that as well. So once I've got my little pinch pots, I'm going to just tap those down. So tap them down, because what I want is a nice flat edge that I can actually attach both pieces together. So once I've got my nice flat edge, I'm going to score up. So scoring up the top surface all the way around, and I'm going to do exactly the same again. Now I'm using the serrated kidney, but you can also use the knife, or you can use a fork from your kitchen. That's absolutely fine. You just need something that can cut into the surface. So at the moment I'm just making the lines into the top, and then you go back over the top as well. So that's called cross hatching. So we're just hatching into the top surface of that clay just to make it nice and rough. So a little bit of water all over the top. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over the top of that again. So what I'm just doing is I'm making up my own slip using the body of the clay to help glue these two together. Now you don't have to mix up slip, you can just use water, it's absolutely fine. But just make sure you make it so you're really roughing that surface up and you've got enough moisture in there that when it goes together it's not coming apart. So I'm going to put those two pieces together. So I'm just pinching around, just putting those two pieces together. So what I'm just doing at the moment is I'm just working my thumb just along that edge, just to make sure that we've got a really nice join. So I'm just working that around at the moment. So once we've got a really nice join, like so, what we're going to do is we're just going to pull the clay up. So you're pulling the clay up just with your finger, just over the top surface. Now if you find that your clay is not moving, you can again use the knife, and you can use the knife as a way of smoothing the two halves together. That's absolutely fine. So if you don't have a pottery knife, you can use a kitchen knife or a plastic knife. If your kids have got any plastic tools, they could be used as well. Or if you've got plastic knife and forks, they're perfectly fine for using for clay as well. So you can use anything as a tool, to be quite honest. It doesn't have to be pottery tools. Anything you can find in your kitchen can be used to sculpt your clay, really, to be quite honest. So just working into that surface, and then I'm going to work backwards. So I'm going back over the top of that surface. I'm just making sure that the clay's combining basically over the top, and I've got a really, really nice join. So if I can see any marks, or I can still see the join, I'm going to go back over the top of that. Right, so I'm going to actually use my hand to shape as well. So I'm just taking my fingers around the top part and just shaping, and I just want that bottom part to be a bit more rounded. So I'm actually going to sort of take the ball of clay that I've just made and just roll that. So what we've done now is we've trapped air inside, and we need that air to actually, so we can shape the piece. Because if we don't have the air, what happens is this becomes a bit of a flat pancake. And we don't want solid clay, because if it's solid clay going into the kiln and you've trapped some air in there, or there's a little bubble in there somewhere and it's solid clay, what tends to happen is it goes kaboom in your clay. Or it could be, it will take like 2-3 weeks to dry out. Where with this, I can make this and dry this out within 3 days, because it's hollow. So shaping up. So that's my shape there. So I've got that shape at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the top part of my poppy seed heads. So I'm just going to pinch off another little bit of clay, and I'm just going to roll that into a small ball. Now you can use a little rolling pin or a pen if you want to roll this out, but I tend to sort of do it with my fingers. So I just roll into a little ball, and then all I'm going to do is going to use my thumb and my fingers. So my fingers are behind and my thumb's on top. I'm going to push down and pinch and push and move. So I'm pinching and then I'm moving. Pinch and move. And I'm just going to work that all the way around. So I'm making it like a little tiny disc of clay. So pinching and moving. There we go. And then slightly fatter bits I'm just going to pinch out with my fingers. So I'm just going to go around and just work the top rim basically of the top, just around that side. Perfect. So I end up with a nice little flat disc. Can you see? So I'm going to texture this with my knife, and again, if you don't have a knife, you can use anything. So you've got top of a pen lid, you can do exactly the same thing with. So I can actually take that. Okay. Perfect. So what I've just done is I've just made like a little star on top. And again, I'm going to just push into the centre. So I'm just bringing those sides up more than anything else. You can keep it just as a flat disc as you want, but I quite like it when it's got just a little dome on it, and it works really nicely on top of these pieces. So once I've got my ball of clay, I'm going to just cross hatch onto the top surface. So again, making my lines and then going back over the top and then back over the top again. I'm going to add a little bit of water to the top of that, and then I'm just going to do exactly the same here as well. So cross hatch, so I've just made marks over the top again, and there we go, a little bit of water, and I'm just going to go over the top of that again just to make that nice and sticky. Do the same here as well. Okay, and then I'm going to put those two together. So all we're going to do then is we're just going to take those and just push that together. So I'm just going to give it a bit of a wiggle just to make sure that that goes together nicely. Okay, and just play with the shape. And then I'm going to use my knife, and you don't have to do this, but I'm going to just bring it onto the surface. Like that. Right, so I'm going to take another tiny bit of clay and roll it in my hands. Oh, sorry. And then just give it a bit of a squish. So I've got a little flat ball, and that's going to go onto the bottom. So it's scoring up again. Water. Score. And then place that onto the bottom. And again, what we're going to do is we're going to just take the knife, and again, this could be a kitchen knife, butter knife's all right, or cheese knife's quite good. I'm just going to just nick that onto the surface. So I'm going to leave that quite rough. Can you see that? So just pulling that onto the surface. And then I'm going to make some lines on here as well. So I'm just going to take my knife all the way down. You don't have to do this. I just think it makes it much nicer. And the glaze sits really nicely in the surface as well. Perfect, so we've gone all the way around that, you see. So from here, we can either leave it as is, and that's absolutely fine, or we can add a texture to the surface. So depending on what type of textures you like, you can do anything, to be quite honest. What I normally find quite nice is if you take one of your kids' pens So this one here is quite a nice one actually. You can also get the ones that have got like little tiny stars on them as well. So have a good look at your kids' stationery and see what you can find. So actually also at the end here is quite nice as well. But don't pin a hole in this until right at the end. Because what we want to do is, as we're trying to push this pen into the surface to make a texture, we want the air to keep it nice and sort of solid on the inside, and it doesn't mean it squishes in itself. So as we're doing that, I'm just going to make a nice little pattern on the surface. Just have a quick look around that. There, I got like that. And there you go. Lovely. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to place a hole just at the bottom here. So I'm going to use my paintbrush for all this. So just to the centre, and I'm going to twist the paintbrush as I push it in. If I go to push it straight in, what tends to happen is it sort of squishes just down a little bit. So we twist as we sort of push the paintbrush in. Now that's quite a nice little hole, so I can put a little bit of wire or something in there, and then I can put that into my pot plants. If I want something slightly bigger, then I would use like a pen or something along those lines, just to go in, again twisting around as I'm pushing in, just to make that hole bigger. So I would always go in and make a smaller hole first, and then from there I'd then make the bigger hole. And there we go. So that can now go into a cane outside. So you can, if you're growing your vegetables, or you know someone who's growing vegetables or anything along those lines, that's big enough to fit onto one of the smaller canes that can go out in your garden, and that stops people from poking their eye with their tops of their canes. So it just as a cane stopper basically. So I hope you enjoyed that, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. I will do a couple more of these, and if you like it, just give me a thumbs up. First YouTube video I've done, so I'll be interested to find out what people sort of think. I'm going to start up a little Patreon site as well, just to sort of help me get through what's going on at the moment anyway. So if you want to make a donation, please do, or if you want to check out my own work, you can go to Jess at jessicajordanceramics.com, and you'll find me on the internet, and you'll find all my work as well. So stay safe everyone, and I hope everyone's okay, and if you like this workshop, just give me a thumbs up, that'd be great. All right, you take care and stay safe, guys. Bye.